week I'm going to be teaching you how to teach a sustained nose target for teaching heel work. But it's not only great for teaching heel work, but you can train a lot of other cool things like an obedience retrieve where the dog retrieves to your hands. Teaching your dog to put their nose in the corner. So you say, did you do something you shouldn't have? And then the dog goes and sustains a nose target in the corner. Or I actually taught Splash to keep a brush on a canvas and not lift the brush off the canvas so she could paint shapes rather than just do dots. You know, one touch to the canvas making just some dots. And now she can, you know, move the brush around. So the first step is teaching your dog to touch your hand. And I'll link a tutorial on touch. That is the first step. You could also teach this behavior using a chin rest. So I also have a chin rest tutorial here. And basically, when you teach a chin rest, you teach your dog to sustain their chin in your hand, and then you can just gradually morph your hand signal to being a touch. So that's one trick.
Step 1. Warm up with the cue touch.
Touch. Good job. Oh, get it. Touch. Well done. Now, some dogs touch very lightly and they just touch with their whiskers. So the next step is going to help you with that. So don't worry about that just yet if your dog's not actually making contact. Good job. Get it. And I suggest now, once your dog, get it right there. Once your dog's warmed up with the game of touch, now don't say touch anymore because we're going to change the behavior into a sustained behavior, and you might want to use the cue touch to mean just touch it once. So now you're just going to hold your hand out and see if your dog will offer touching your hand without you having to say it.
Step 2. Add duration to the nose touch.
There are many ways to achieve this. One, Virginia Breutman, her way of teaching it is that as the dog goes to touch your hand, you push your hand into the dog's nose. Not in an intimidating gesture, but you're just providing some pressure so that your dog will do the opposition reflex and push against your hand. Now, if you have a shy dog or a little timid dog, I suggest this other method, which is that touch. You ask your dog to touch your hand as you back up. Touch. And then, once you're getting your dog to follow your hand and touch it while you're backing up, you stop, and their forward momentum will have them walk into your hand, and you're going to click and highly reinforce them if they're the type of dog that didn't particularly like it as much as they would have with just using their whiskers. Good job. You saw how she pushed harder when I stopped. I like it for the dog to touch below the nose, so that little angle just below the nose rather than on the nose, because what can happen is their nose can get a little tickle, and then as you're doing this behavior there's a lot of sneezing that can happen.
Step 3. Add a verbal cue.
Step 3. Once your dog is reliably targeting your hand as you move and also as you stop, as well as targeting while you're still, I would add the verbal cue. So my cue is sustain to make it different than the cue touch. Good job. But don't say the two cues together. You're just going to practice sustain in one lesson and then keep your touch games in another training session, in another room in the house, so your dog doesn't get confused by the two behaviors. You want to have these two behaviors to use to train and use as building blocks in the future. Say your verbal cue before you move to present your hand so it really becomes the predictor of what behavior is to come next. If you say it as you move your hand, your dog might just be learning the hand gesture and you could ruin your touch cue by changing it into the sustain cue. So I'm going to say sustain and then present my hand. Good job. Sustain. Good job. Awesome. If you notice you're holding your treats here, sustain, and your dog's looking at the treats, you can click your dog for looking at your eyes by making a noise, their attention noise or a blowing noise, so that the behavior doesn't become about sustaining and looking at the treats. Good job. Because what can happen is that when you want to train without treats, then your dog says, no, I'm not going to do it because you're not holding treats. Because usually I put my nose here, sustain, and then I look at the treats. And when the treats are gone, the behavior goes too.
Step 4. Targeting a post-it note on your leg. First, hold the note in your hand and give your dog the cue to do a sustained target. When your dog is successful with the note out in front of him, practice your dog approaching the note from different angles and from different positions.
Sustain. Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Now attach the note to your leg with some tape.
Go get it.
Here you can see I'm helping Splash by giving her some more information with a hand signal as well.
Yes.
I'm also standing on the edge of the carpet so she's more likely to put her feet in the correct position that I want her to. You can use a barrier, platform, or stool to keep the dog's feet in the correct position so you can concentrate on clicking the correct head position. If you have a little dog, you can use a target stick instead of a post-it note. This will help your little dog with the concept of visually targeting the top of your body rather than lunging forwards every time you take a step with your leg. Step 5. Proof and remove the post-it. Put down food or a toy and cue your dog to leave it. Then ask for the behavior. Add a small distraction and then cue your dog to get his reward. Once you get to this stage, if you don't want your dog to actually touch your leg, you can start to click your dog, holding their head in the position that you like.
Sustain.
Change up your training. Go back and click and feed in the position, as well as release your dog to a reward. If you're a fan of luring, you can hold some treats above your dog's head, click when your dog's head touches your leg, and then move your hand down to feed your dog in position. You can practice this with your dog in the sit position as well. When you remove the post-it note, ask for less duration to make it easier for the dog. You can play other games to build your dog's neck muscles, for example, following a target stick from below. By following the end of a target stick, you can get your dog further away from you and see their leg movements more clearly. Don't forget to train in both directions.